Hey class, Prof here, and I want to welcome you to our first podcast for this class. And I think my understanding is over the next 8 weeks, we'll do 5 of these podcasts. And so here's how this is going to work. I think this is the first time for any of you in this class to have taken me. So I just want to explain kind of how I do these podcasts on the weeks that we have them. I'll put the podcast out there, and then you listen to the podcast, and then I'll kind of walk through this book that we have. It was an optional book for you to purchase, but it's where all the information for the podcast is going to come out of. So I'll find some nuggets out of it. I'll talk through that. And then in the podcast, somewhere in the podcast, I will leave 2 to 3 questions. It might be in the podcast. It might be at the end of the podcast. You just never know where it's going to be. So you just listen to those questions, answer those questions, and you don't have to write big paragraphs or anything like that. You can answer them and just answer the question. You know, if it's 3 sentences, great. If it's a paragraph, great. But you don't need to, you don't have to write paragraphs and pages on this. And then I'm going to set my timer here, and I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes because my goal is to make sure that these podcasts are done on a weekly basis in 10 minutes or less. I've been doing these podcasts for a while, and I get so excited about some of these topics. I just keep talking, and next thing I know, we're at 27 minutes, and I know you all are extremely busy, so I want to make sure that I am mindful of your time as well. So here's what I want to talk about today, and I think that this is extremely important. So when we talk about organizational leadership communication, okay, your assignments that you're going to do in the class, okay, they're going to kind of go high level from an organizational team perspective. What is communication? But what I want to take some time to do in our podcast is really to look at it from a perspective of, from a personal perspective, from a leadership perspective. How do you communicate with other people? Okay. And as leaders, it's really important to understand that communication is going to be one of the most important things that you do as a leader. And so I think that this book right here by John C. Maxwell, called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect, that's going to be the key right there. It's not just communication, it's connecting with the people that you communicate with. I know a lot of people who teach, I know a lot of people who speak, I know a lot of people who lead. Very few of those people really understand what it means to connect. That's the more difficult part, okay? And so what this book is going to do, and so hopefully you're going to get from the coursework and the group work that you do, you're going to have kind of understanding what's external communication and internal communication and all that kind of stuff, and how do you put together processes for communication. That's important. But on a personal level, it's about connection. How do you connect with people? And what we're going to talk about today is the foundation for all communication. It's the foundation for organizational communication. It's the foundation for team communication. It's the foundation for personal communication. Okay. And I'm going to take it we're going to look at kind of chapters 1 and chapter 2, but really most of what we're going to talk about today is found in chapter 2. And what John Maxwell says, his chapter 2, the title of chapter 2 is Connecting is All About Other People. Connecting is all about other people. It's not about me. So if we go over to page 29, he writes these words right here. Connecting is never about me. It's about the person with whom I'm communicating. Similarly, when you are trying to connect with people, it's not about you. It is all about them. If you want to connect with others, you have to get over yourself. That's that's probably the biggest thing that keeps most of us from really learning how to connect with other people, is we're making it about us. Okay. You have to change the focus from inward to outward, off of yourself and onto others. And the great thing is that you can do it. Anyone can. All it takes are the will to change your focus, the determination to follow through, and the acquisition of a handful of skills. Okay. And so then he talks about why are some reasons that people miss out on this. And the first reason he gives, and I think it's probably the overarching reason, is immaturity. Okay. He says, and he says here on page 30, he says, maturity is the ability to see and act on the behalf of other people. Okay. Immature people don't see things from someone else's point of view. They rarely concern themselves with what's best for others. Okay. In many ways, they act like small children. A sign of maturity is that you're able to look at a situation from somebody else's perspective, to put yourself in their position and to think about it from their perspective. Okay. So any conversation that you come to, you're going to be asking, what is in it for the other person? What is this person trying to take from their? You're not thinking about yourself. You're not taking things personal. When somebody has, if they come to you and they're trying to communicate with you, a way that you can connect when you're listening is to not take it personal, right? Maybe you're getting feedback from a boss or from a coworker, and you want to make it all about you. It's not about you. Okay. And oftentimes when someone's giving you feedback that's a little bit unfair, and it's probably coming out of their own place of insecurity. So again, when you think about from their perspective, you're able to see these kind of things. It talks about ego gets in the way, right? It's another reason why. It talks about, you know, failing to value other people. That gets in the way of connecting with people. Insecurity, personal insecurity, making it all about ourselves. That gets in the way. You know, what's interesting is this is embarrassing for me to tell you, but I'm going to tell you this anyway, because I just had this, I just needed to, I needed to check myself the other day. So I'm back in the Midwest right now, and I'm back here because I gave a training just yesterday in Ohio to a group of leaders from a local city. And uh, but on the way to the training, I won't go into all of this, but I got to my hotel room literally around at 3:15 in the morning, and because I had to get ready for the training the next day, I didn't get to bed till 4:45, and I had to get right back up at 6:30, 6:45, so I could get ready to be over at the place to start training by 9 a.m. And so I had this whole plan. Okay, so when I travel, I have a whole plan. I've got a routine. I kind of take my home routine with me and all that kind of stuff. And so I've got my structure, and the night before I give a training, I always make sure I'm in the hotel early, or at least at a decent time, and I'm in bed on time, and I'm reading. And then I get up the next day and I go to the gym because I feel like I train better when I've actually been training in the gym that morning. Then I can show up in front of everyone, and I feel good about myself. And so I'm able. And this one was two back-to-back trainings, 3 hours each. So that's standing on your feet for about 6 hours a day. So I always want to feel good. Well, obviously this time, because of planes, I was stuck in Austin, Texas, stuck in Dallas, Texas. We got to Indianapolis late. I had to make a 3 hour drive through one of the worst storms I've ever driven through to get to Columbus, Ohio. And then by the time I got to Columbus, Ohio, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. So there's no way I'm getting up and going to the gym, right? That's not happening. So I'm grousing and griping the whole way driving there because, number one, the snow and all this stuff. And I'm thinking I could be home in my own home in San Diego where it's beautiful. And I'm out here in the Midwest, and I'm not gonna be able to go to the gym. I'm not gonna feel good. I'm not gonna look good when I get. And I started realizing, JC, you're making it all about you. It is not about you. Who cares if you get up tomorrow and your hair's out of place, or you look exhausted and tired, or whatever it is, as long as you show up and do the job, because it's 100% about them. And I told my consulting partner, who actually owns the company that I consult with, we had a conversation that night, and I said that was a game changer for me, to understand that anytime we get up in front of people, it is never about us, ever. And I got to be honest with you, the trainings went extremely well, and I was exhausted. But when I was able to change that mindset and say, hey, you know what, JC, if you look tired and exhausted and you didn't get to go to who cares? It is not about you. It's 100% about them. That changes the mindset. So this is what I'm saying. We've got to be able to change our mindsets and say it's never about us. The greatest leaders out there, and I want you to think about the greatest leader you've ever had. Okay, the one that you resonate most with. I guarantee you, it has something to do with the fact that they weren't thinking about themselves; they were thinking about you, and that made you appreciate their leadership. Okay, so here's the deal: there are three questions that people ask when you stand in front of them. Every single time, whether you're leading them, whether you're speaking to them, whatever it is, there are three questions that people are asking. And I found this to be true. Whenever I get up and I do a lot of virtual trainings, I'll travel around the country and do some of these trainings. And usually with these trainings, I walk in cold. They've never even heard of me before they see me. And so within a short amount of time, I've got to earn trust. This right here, these questions right here, when I'm able to see from this perspective, it helps me go in with a much different mindset. And here are the three questions. Number one is this: here's what people are asking about you as their leader or their speaker, their teacher, whatever it is. Do you care for me? Do you care for me? Before you get up and speak, right, I want to know, do you care about me? Do you care about my interest, or is it going to be all about you? That's the first question they ask. The second question is, can you help me? Okay, can you help me? I'm not here to listen to you just talk. I'm here because I'm trying to get better at whatever it is. I need you to add value to my life. So can you help me? And then the third question people are asking, and this is probably the most important question that people are asking about you and your leadership, your speaking, your teaching, whatever. Can I trust you? Can I trust you? Are you a person that can be trusted? Are you going to take advantage of me? Are you going to make it all about yourself? Is it going to be, are you going to lack, are you going to lack ethics and all this other kind of stuff? Are you going to be a person of integrity? Can I trust you? Okay. These are the three questions that people are asking about you. And so you got to understand this whole thing about communication. It's got nothing to do with you. Okay. The greatest leaders out there, I promise you, they're not thinking about themselves. It goes back to the definition of humility, one of the greatest definitions of humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking of yourself less. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking of yourself less. Great leaders aren't thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about themselves at all. They're worried about the mission, the vision, and the other people. Okay. All right. So those that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. And so here are a couple of questions that I'm going to give you, and our alarm is getting ready to go off to tell me it is time to wrap it up. And there we go. It's going off right now. So let me hit stop on that one. So here are the questions I want you to answer today. The number one is this. Why is connection important when it comes to communication? Based on what we just talked about. Don't give me some random answer, okay? Based on what we just talked about, why is connection important when it comes to communication, okay? Based on what we just talked about, what are some of the reasons, and I listed off a couple of them, what are some of the reasons that keep people from connecting with others when they're communicating, based on what you heard in this podcast? And then our third question is, what are the three things that people are asking about you? Okay. What are the three things that people are asking about you when you're getting ready to get up in front of them and have a conversation, or you're getting ready to lead them? Okay. What are three things that people are asking about you? Okay. Just a quick reminder again, it is never about you. Ever, 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 ever. This is the foundation for all communication. Foundation. You want your speeches to get better. You want your presentations in class to get better. You want everything to get better. You got to understand this. It is never about you. And those of you who are in your 20s taking this class, if you can get this now, it will make your 30s better, your 40s better, your 50s. The rest of your life will be much better because you'll understand this. It's never about you. Great leaders, and this is why I always tell people, if you're going to take a leadership class at Point Loma, one of our graduate classes or undergraduate, program, or whatever it is, don't come and take this because you think a leadership degree is going to be easy. Take this because you really want to get better at being a leader. And this is the foundation. It is never about you. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you in the next episode next week of our podcast, and we'll continue. Have a great week. Have a great week, everyone. Reach out if you need me. Take care.